How's it going tonight, guys? I know I said I wouldn't be talking about anything related to Resident Evil 7, and I still stand by that. However, there is something in the recent Resident Evil 7 trailers that kind of caught my attention, and I did talk a little bit about this on the recent TCP podcast. This is in relation to an image that's left at the end of each new Resident Evil 7 trailer that's about 20 to 30 seconds long. I want to go in depth on this because it seems like it's hinting at something that everyone is hoping to see, and that is the Resident Evil 2 remake. Now, before I begin talking about the images, I do want to talk about something else which I feel as though ties in to some extent and will kind of back up the claim that I'm trying to make when it comes to this video. Now, I personally believe that Capcom's upload schedule for these new trailers is very key when discussing what could possibly be happening when it comes to the Resident Evil 2 remake. Now, at first I didn't really think anything of it. They just uploaded 2 trailers. Whatever, big deal. Some companies do that when it comes to their games. They upload multiple trailers that are, usually about 20 to 40 seconds long. It's really nothing. But that's when I really started to think about it, because they were releasing 2 and 2 per week. Now, I think this is a really significant thing because, 2 is a very important number to the Resident Evil series. Resident Evil 2, for example, is one of the biggest games within the entire franchise, so I think that's what they're trying to play along with. Not only that, but if we're assuming that they are hinting at a teaser for the Resident Evil 2 remake, they're slowly releasing trailers on a weekly basis. So this is where the images start to come into play. Now, before I begin talking about the images in depth, I need you to take a look at the image itself, because each image has a dot, and as you progress through each image, another dot is filled in. There are 10 circles in total, and I think what it means is that after a particular trailer is done, that dot will be filled. And if we're going by the logic of, hey, there's going to be 2 new trailers every week, there are 10 trailers in total before we see something at the very end. And to me, I just feel as though it has to mean something. There's just no way that filling in just random dots that lead to Resident Evil, all in quotation marks with an arrow pointing towards it, like that has some sort of significance. I feel as though it does, and I feel like it is hinting at something, but I will get into that in just a moment. I do have to go back to the original image because I feel as though there's no real reason to point to any of the other later images, as the only thing that changes significantly is the amount of dots that are filled in on the image. This to me is the most important part of the image, because you have an arrow pointing to Resident Evil in quotation marks, and there's a date below it. It probably is 2018, and what's notable about it is that 2 and 0 are cut off, suggesting that it could potentially be Resident Evil 2 Remake. I mean, why would you cut off that particular number if it wasn't for that? And at the very bottom where it says Capcom, all rights reserved, there's also one other thing that gets cut off, and that is an X. Now, whether that could be a reference to Mr. X or perhaps Code Veronica X, who knows, but it is something that I found kind of interesting. Now, whether or not we actually get a teaser or not is irrelevant. I think we are going to get some form of information on the remake. And I think what's really likely is that we'll actually be getting a potential release window for the game. Not a teaser, just a release window that kind of gives us an idea as to when we can expect the game to be coming out. And to me, that makes a lot more sense for them to start teasing Resident Evil 2 Remake now, because Resident Evil 7 is right around the corner. It's coming out in January, and there would be no real reason to promote that game any further than what they already have. So it makes sense for them to slowly but surely start hinting and teasing at Resident Evil 2 Remake. And in my personal opinion, I feel as though we'll be getting this information on November the 8th, because these trailers are being released on a weekly basis, and I feel as though the last 2 trailers will be released around that time. So I think that's when we'll start seeing that information. November the 8th is probably the date to be looking out for, but your guess is as good as mine when it comes to when we'd be seeing information on something like that. Anyways, I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you think that Capcom will be releasing some sort of date on November the 8th for Resident Evil 2 Remake? Do you think they'll actually be hinting at the remake? Do you think we'll see a teaser around that time? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you don't already, you can follow me on Twitter and on Twitch, and I'll see you guys in the next one.